All right. Okay, Terry's back. Tanya says she's
back in.
Tracy,
is Laser back? I can't see because I'm like looking at my phone.
yes, Laser is back.
Laser, is there any way I can get on back on my computer, or am I kind of basically screwed for the rest of the evening?
Yeah, because it's once it's if you don't get placed in the waiting room, you can't get back. And if you're removed, because it sees it as if you're like being disruptive, like the host, like the host removed you. So
got it. All right, I'll keep staring at my phone. Okay.
I'm sorry, Tanya.
Yeah.
All right, Tracy, are you back? Tracy, are you back? Terry, I see you're back. All right, Stephen, you said we're ready to go, right? Okay, so we're gonna get started. Just again, as a reminder, a couple of things. Remember, we're not doing the Lee F. Jackson presentation. Also, wanted to let you know, again, also, there was a change to the audit charter also today, I believe it was. And so we'd like to postpone that one to, which is board action item F6 to our next meeting. So we have more time to review that as well. All right, Dr. Reynolds, I don't know, were you doing providing any support, I mean not support, but any report from the superintendent's office at all?
No, ma'am, I wasn't.
Okay, thank you.
I need to ask a question.
Yes, Brendan.
So if we're putting off F6, what one of the things in F6 is that we may, depending on what we vote on, end up with possibly 2 recruits instead of 1 recruit for the audit committee. And we won't know that until we pass or don't pass that resolution. So can we go ahead and recruit for people, not knowing how many there will be?
I sort of say, I don't know. I mean, what is the rest?
Okay, we'll get to it. I'll get to it more when we hit the audit committee report.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
All right. So, so we're at committee reports. I would say while Carol is here, if you have let's start with the audit committee, if the audit committee members don't mind, so that if something comes up, Carol can, because I know she made changes to it, so you have the opportunity to ask her.
Okay. The audit committee met shortly after 5 p.m. on 12/7/20. We met via Zoom call. The meeting was also publicly available live on Greenberg CSD YouTube channel. Attendees included voting board members Tanya Dragic, Terry Williams, and David Warner. Also attending were District Treasurer Amy Ashley Moore, Business Office Consultant Mary O'Neill, and PKF O'Connor Davies LLP representatives Scott Oling and Melissa Zott. We, 1, introduced ourselves. 2, elected David Warner as Audit Committee Chair for the remainder of the 2020-2021 school year. 3, discussed Audit Committee membership issues. A 2011 charter for the Audit Committee surfaced in the middle of the 12/1/20 Board of Education meeting. The charter specifies that the Audit Committee consists of 3 board members, whom we have, and 1 non-BOE member with financial experience. 2 community members, 1 with financial experience in a nonprofit organization and previous service on the committee, and the other, a medical doctor, had both volunteered to be members of the audit committee for this year. The board has not approved the non-board audit committee member as of yet. One trustee felt that the audit committee was incomplete without the appointment of a non-board member, and that we should not hear any audit presentations until an appointment has been made. The other two board members disagreed and felt we should listen to Scott Olling's independent audit presentation. The trustee who objected agreed to rejoin the meeting after the presentation concluded and exited the Zoom call. 4, Scott Olling and Melissa Zott of our independent auditing firm O'Connor Davies reviewed and answered questions regarding the GCSD financial statements and supplementary information, similar to what you heard tonight, but in more detail. GCSD extra classroom activity fund statement of cash receipts and cash balances, and the GCSD management letter. The financial statement reflects a clean audit, as you heard tonight. A copy of the statement has been submitted to NYSED, and we are waiting board approval for it to be finalized. I think that's agenda item G3. The management letter was a draft that was to be finalized by this board meeting, allowing the business department to formulate a corrective action plan for later board approval. We received that final version today via email. And so the assumption is there's nothing on the agenda today for that, because we've got to go back and do the corrective action plan. And I think that that can wait until our new interim assistant superintendent for business starts up. After reviewing the audit documents, Scott Olling and Melissa Zott left the meeting, and the third trustee re-entered the meeting. 5, we reviewed the 2011 charter, and the majority of the trustees agreed we would modify the charter. Among other things, we would increase the number of non-board members allowed on the committee from 1 to 2, and indicate that while financial experience is necessary, professional financial certification is preferred but not required. Have the revised draft reviewed by our legal counsel and specifically check the legality of having voting members be non-residents. You received the result of that in your email from Carol Melnick today. It makes sense to me that you can have time to look at that. I think she resolved the issues and opined, and the draft reflects that. Then recommend the modified charter to the Board of Education for adoption. That would have been F6. If the board wanted to adopt the version that the lawyer came forward with, then that we'd have to specify that. I think that's what we should attach for the next board work session. Canvas for volunteers, and have the board determine who will fill the openings by whatever means they think best. Okay. By the way, if you're out there and looking to volunteer, 2 good sources for audit committee information are to Google NYSED Office of Audit Services, and visit the greenbergcsd.org website, and then look under Departments, Business Office, Audits and Financial Statements, and you'll see audits from previous years. We adjourn the meeting at 7:31 p.m. So at this point, I'm thinking what needs to happen is we're going to have our next audit committee meeting, and at that point, we'll orient our new interim assistant superintendent for business. A corrective action plan will get drafted that corresponds to the management letter, which is all the minor stuff, right? And then we'll come back with a recommendation from that. And we hope that in the meantime, by the time we have that meeting, we've got a complete committee, that we've got our 1 or 2 audit committee members in place. I don't foresee having an audit committee meeting over the Christmas holidays. So I think that'll work out just fine, as long as the work session's towards the beginning of January. Am I correct about that?
Yes,
Okay.
David.
Good. So that's it.
Terry, your hand? Terry?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Let me take my hand down. So thank you, David. I just want to point out, this is just a point of fact, not disagreement or anything. Those minutes are preliminary minutes, because obviously we haven't had a meeting whereby we approve the minutes, because I think I would add a few things that in my opinion David left out. And obviously, had we had another meeting, the minutes would have been finalized. So first of all, I think for the sake of clarity and transparency, we need to say which board member decided not to be a part of it. It's not to cast any, cast any aspersions on anybody, but certainly I want the public to know that I did not lead the meeting. David was in the meeting. It was Tanya Drodrick. That's just a statement of fact. The other point that that I want to make is part of, and Tanya, you can weigh in here on this, but part of the reason that I understood it that Tanya left is not so much because of not only the fact that we did not have an outside member, but also she brought up the point that none of us are financial professionals, and according to the comments that she made during the meeting, that so as such we probably shouldn't be hearing what the auditor had to say because none of us are financial professionals. And so that leads to a question that I have for Carol. After I finish all of my comments, perhaps you can tell all of the board, instruct all of the board why, even though none of us are CPAs, CFAs, CFPs, or any other financial professional, why we as board members are still required to be on the audit committee. Number two, the other thing that I would ask Carol to address is the following. So when we discussed the outside members of the board, originally the original charter said one additional member. It was determined, or a majority of the committee recommended that it be two, because you want to avoid the possibility that you would have an even number of people on the board for voting reasons. But Carol, could you? It seemed to me that to have one or two potential outsiders on a committee and voting on a recommendation to the committee is a violation of and I don't know the rules of the law, but it would seem to me that it would be a violation in the sense that those two people are not elected by the residents, but yet they are voting on a recommendation by the committee to the board. So I think it's better if I give you an example. So if we have 5 people on the board, 3 board members and 2 outsiders. 2 board members vote a certain way, another board member votes the other way. So without those board members, the recommendation would go forward. But if there's 2 board members voting one way and 1 board member is joined by the 2 outsiders, basically you have a situation where 2 people who have not been elected by the electorate are determining in contravention to the electorate, making a recommendation. They're making a recommendation, and they were not elected to do so by the electorate. Does that make sense, Carol? Did I make that correctly? Maybe if I wrote it out to you.
No, I understand the question. I think I understand the question.
Right. So I had a question. Those were my 2 questions. Why the board, even though we're not professionals, must be on the audit committee, and number 2, that whole kind of convoluted, electorate thing that I was asking.
Okay. So the first one is a little easier, right? So the statute, the law requires that at least 3 board members be on this committee, whoever they may be. And that you can also have, you can have the full board be the committee. You can have all non-board members be a committee. and you can have any combination thereof. A non-member of the board can be a non-resident, and that's by statute again. It's in the law. I can understand why you think it makes no sense, but you know, what random person who isn't a resident is going to volunteer to be on your board? It's unlikely, but that is the law. It's allowed.
Can I interrupt? Can I interrupt, Carol? I don't have a problem with the outside person being on the board. The issue I have is can they vote without having been elected? And let me give you an example. I think if it hasn't left my mind already. So basically, the point that I'm making. Oh yeah, I know what I'm trying to say. So what I'm saying is certainly I can understand and appreciate and accept even somebody from outside of our district, even though I would prefer somebody inside, because they would be the expert. That the way the law is written, as I understand it, is they must be a financial expert. So I view no.
So let me just answer that part.
Sure. Okay.
Because what the law says, and I'll read it. It says that the committee members should collectively possess knowledge in accounting, auditing, financial reporting, and school district finances, and should be able, or rather, and that's it, right? So as board members, you have training through becoming board members and through school boards or however you get your training in school district finances. So the idea is that collectively, you all bring to the table, to the committee, some element of knowledge, however little or however much. And that whoever you add to this committee is part of that collective knowledge. So one of the, amendments that I did to the policy was to have it read collectively you have knowledge, as opposed to there's the 3 board members and then this additional non-member has to have this special knowledge. It's really collective knowledge. Does that make sense to you?
I will say that your writing was clear.
Okay. So, and that writing is the law. I just took it smack out of the law because so that it is clear. The other piece that you asked, or you back up, once a non-member, whether they're a resident or not, is on that board, they're considered an officer, and they have the protections of education law because of liability issues, so that if they are sued, they are protected as if they're an officer of your school district, because otherwise no one would volunteer to be on that committee, to be at risk. And so the law provides this exception by having these non-board members have the ability to have this protection, this liability protection. Now, what the law doesn't specifically address is what you're asking in terms of should their vote count more or less than an elected member of the board. And I believe the answer there has to do with the fact that by law, the committee is advisory only. So it has no independent right to action. It's making a recommendation, bringing suggestions to the whole board, and only the whole board, who are your elected members, have the right to actually take action. And so when it's all together, right? So when you put it all together, it comes out to a committee of collective knowledge making, and it's advisory, making recommendations and suggestions to the whole board. So those non-members get a vote on the committee, the same weight, the same vote as any other member of the committee.
But I would counter, and I think this is the only counter I will make on that, is that while I understand the whole recommendation thing clearly, the recommendation is made by a majority consensus. And again, if the people are not elected by the electorate, that's, in my mind, a violation of the will of the people.
And I hear you, but when this legislation came about in 2006, it came about because of fraud that was on a particular school board, the
Roslyn.
school district.
Yep.
And so what this intended to do was just establish oversight. And so to have the oversight became more important to the lawmakers who decided this than the piece about who, you know, if they're not a member, should they have a right to vote. So the same way that you have other committees that are comprised of board members and non-board members, and they all vote on the charter and they all vote on everything equally, it's no different here.
Thank you.
Okay. Is that it for the audit committee?
One other thing about the audit committee, not related to what I brought up before. So again, David, I don't know if you developed this as much as we talked about it. So obviously, the next step is to go out and solicit 2 volunteers. And we didn't discuss, didn't we? We went into the process a little bit. We didn't go into too much detail, but are we prepared to? I kind of remember bringing up that we have to go about determining how we're going to solicit participation. And I know we didn't get too deep into it, but I thought we discussed it a bit. I guess the question is this: will the board make a recommendation as to how to do that, or will we at our next meeting come back with a decision as to how to do that? Because, you know, obviously this is the first time we're bringing up to the board and to the public the fact that we're going to have 2 people, that we want 2 people. So how do we go about doing that? I mean, I have an idea about how we go about doing it, but do we discuss that now as a board, or do we discuss it as a committee and come back with a recommendation?
I know that in other committees, what happens is the committee forwards a recommendation to the board, and the board decides what they want to do with it. So if we do what we're doing with all the other committees, then we should probably publicize the need for volunteers to the best of our ability and bring that recommendation back to the board. If the board wants to do something else, they are free to tell us to do that now. Does anyone have an opinion that we should do something other than that?
My only thought is, I believe there were 2 community members that reached out in regards to interest. So as long as they're a part of your pocket of people that you are considering, I mean, you guys as an audit committee should move forward with whatever the process is, go through that, and then provide the recommendation to the rest of the board. For CECC, we, you know, shared out our invitation to the meeting. People came, people said if they wanted to participate as a member or not, and then we forwarded those lists of community members who were interested.
Okay.
And that's the point, Antoinette. We didn't put out an invitation to that. 2 people volunteered. Chris Valen, who has been on it before and obviously knew about it, and Dr. Allen, however she found out about it, volunteered. But we did not, unlike the other, situation that you described, we did not invite people. We did not make it known. We did not publicize that we were looking for people. And that's my point, I guess. Thanks for making it more succinct, is that what I think our next step as a committee, and we touched on this a little bit, is to cast a net. I think I used the word cast a net to make sure that we get enough people so that we can make a decision.
That's up to the audit committee, so.
We will do that.
Can I ask a question, Madam President?
Ms. Carey, then Tanya.
How do we usually get people to become members of our committees? And David, I want to ask you, how did the two members find out about the openings on the committee?
We had a Finance and Facilities Committee meeting in which I described what was happening in the district, whereupon Chris Vallon, who had been on the committee the previous year, raised her hand and said, I volunteer to be on the committee again. At which point Dr. Allen, who was also in the meeting, said, I'd like to be on the committee too. So that's where they came from. I believe you were on the audit committee the previous year, and we kind of sort of beat the bushes for someone with a CPA and got a bunch of people to take one giant step backward. So I'm not overly optimistic that if we do the informal, what CPAs do you know and can you find them? I think I may have announced it in a meeting. We didn't get a whole lot of response. So we need to work a little harder, but I'm pretty confident. I'm not unhappy with the people we've got volunteered already. All right, so if we don't find anybody better, I think we'll be okay, but we do need to go through the process and try a little harder to find somebody.
Okay. Tanya? Tanya? Oh, no.
She probably lost signal.
Yeah, probably lost signal. Ooh, wait, I see she might be trying to come back in. Okay.
There she is.
Okay, Tanya, are you ready? You're muted.
Yeah, so it's very late. I don't want to take up a lot of time. I just wanted to respond to what Terry said earlier, which is that the whole conversation about the audit committee was precipitated by a number of emails that actually originated from him about community participation, such that we actually had 2 volunteers and neither one was allowed in because suddenly a charter appeared that required basically a charter appeared that we were not following, according to Terry. So this is why I actually thank you, David, for being diplomatic. I didn't actually leave the meeting. I just muted myself during the auditor's report and listened to it and then came back. But I thought that it was really either we were going to go ahead and do what was being done in previous years, which was take one or both of the community members who volunteered, or none at all, at which point we really didn't have a committee as per our charter. So that's all I just wanted to say. And just to go back to the point of how to find committee members, audit committee members, I think that we should just advertise on our social media in the hopes of perhaps, getting a bona fide accountant or financial person. And if we don't, then, I think that Carol Allen and Chris Valen are more than welcome if no one else volunteers.
Agreed.
Okay, do we have any other committee reports?
I just want to add one thing. Going back to audit. So I agree that we should advertise on social media and do whatever outreach is necessary. the charter, I guess to some, the charter did just come out of thin air, but it really didn't. I certainly didn't write the charter. I can't take credit for it, but just for point of fact, it was according to our lawyer, not Terry Williams, according to our lawyer that we should follow the charter. The lawyer advised us that the charter was, and I don't remember her exact words, but certainly we received notification from our attorney. It wasn't because of me. All I did was recall that there was some language that said that certain things had to be in place. So I just wanted the community to know that we were following our lawyer's direction on that and not me.
Right. You didn't, the problem is that the charter was not recalled last year or the year before, all the way back to 2011. It was recalled this year, which is why I had an issue then. If we were going to follow it as per our lawyer's advice, we should have called off the meeting. So that's.
Well,
All right.
our lawyer didn't say to call off the meeting, but I would just say this: I was never in all my years.
For 1 second.
Sure.
For 1 second, we have now spent. We've only gone through one committee. I think that the message is clear. There's the charter. You guys are going to advertise. You're going to do your best to get someone to participate, or someone's to participate. Can we please move on to any other committee reports? It is now 10:34.
I would just say, thank you, Antoinette, that I wasn't on the committee in previous years. Had I been, I would have brought up the charter, because I remember going back to what Carol was saying. This whole audit committee was something that was precipitated by fraud, and I was on the board back then, and that was the the school board in Roslyn. It was a big issue, so that's why I was aware of it. But I had not been on the committee before, and I can't explain why others had not conform to that. But certainly, if you know of a rule or regulation, and the fact that it had been ignored in the past doesn't mean that it should continue to be ignored.
Are there any other committee reports this evening? Okay. Hearing none, we're moving on. So we will move forward with the approvals. All right. So section D. Carol, thank you for joining us. You don't have to suffer with us any longer, but thank you for joining us. We're gonna hopefully be respectful of the time, that it's 10:35, and we'll move forward through the rest of the agenda. Thank you, Carol, for being with us.
Thank you, Antoinette. Thank you, board members and everyone else.
Good night, Carol.
Good night. Thank you.
All right, good night.
Good night.
All right. So section D, instructional personnel items. Is there a motion to approve the instructional personnel items presented to the board this evening?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Let me make sure I'm paying. Okay. Section E, non-instructional personnel items. Is there a motion to approve the non-instructional items presented to the board for approval this evening?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Okay. Is there a motion to approve? I'm sorry, we're at section 4, board action items. Is there a motion to approve the board action items presented to the board for approval this evening, with the exception of item F6, which is tabled?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? The motion carries. Section H, business item. Is there a motion to approve the business items presented to the board for
Wait,
approval?
did we do G?
Did I skip G? Oh my God.
You skipped G.
I'm so sorry. Section G, finance item. Is there a motion to approve the finance items to the board for approval this evening?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Back to section H, business items. Is there a motion to approve the business items presented to the board for approval this evening?
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Section I, pupil personnel services items. Is there a motion to approve the pupil personnel services items to the board for, presented to the board for approval this evening?
So moved.
Moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Okay, we are now up to J, the closing items. Okay, Tanya, I believe you have something for us.
I do. I actually also had some questions for Amy. I can't tell on my phone if she's still with us or not.
Amy's here.
I'm here.
Amy, hi.
Hi.
So I looked at the budget transfers, and I'm so sorry because I was kind of futzing around with my computer because Antoinette bumped me off the meeting. I don't have them up, but I was just wondering if you could explain to me all these budget transfers that seem to be from one category to the exact same category all the way through, what that means.
Okay, I can. I just need to pull it up.
Yeah, I need to pull it up as well. Yeah. There were some very, very large transfers, but it seemed to be from one category to exactly the same one. So I couldn't quite understand what the maneuver was for.
Sure. Are these, I apologize, are the budget transfers on the,
They're on board docs, actually.
let me pull it up. Where exactly are they located?
They are in the board packet, the 12,
Hold
11
it for a
board
second.
packet.
Ivy has her hand up. Ivy?
Oh, I don't think I see it here.
No, the treasurer does not have access to the board's
Yeah.
confidential packets.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. Okay, so it's basically like, for example, there are all these transfers that go. Maybe we don't have to waste time. Maybe you can just respond to me by email. But for example, it says to fund for caretaker house demolition. And then it seems like there's a debit of $18,000 and some dollars. And then it's a different budget code, but then it just says to fund for caretaker house demolition. And it's exactly the same sum in the credits. And this just goes on and on. And then there are other things like building department salary code. There's like 135,000 transfer, but then it's a transfer to the exact same name, but just a different code number. So I don't know if you guys were just changing codes or what the reason for that was.
Okay, so without actually seeing it, it sounds like to me that the transfers were done to codes where the availability was there. And in some instances, you may not have the same code, but again, I have to look at specifically what you're talking about. Generally, the transfers that are done based on similar codes, and that's the normal practice. If in fact there's a code that's not similar, it's generally because it's where the funds are available, and it's okay to pull from that particular line. But I will definitely
yes, some of these are rather hefty, and I just wanted to really understand, I mean, it looks like a lot of money got transferred for the same stuff, but from different codes. Okay. So I would just like to understand kind of the accounting that you're using here.
So what I'll do is I'll get that specifically, I'll get that written up and I'll send it to the entire board.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. Okay, that was it. And then
Thank you,
Antoinette,
Amy.
you want?
Tanya, you can go with the next one.
Okay, so I just wanted to update the community regarding the Zoom bombing that we had during our Education and Wellness Committee meeting. I actually can't remember the date. It was in November, I think maybe November 15th, if I remember vaguely correctly. I put in a police report for a hate crime. I believe I put that in on November 19th. And I reached out to the Greenburgh Police Department, and they told me that they have reached out to Zoom. They're waiting for the IP addresses of the individuals who crashed their meeting and wrote obscenities and voiced obscenities during the meeting, and that they did actually catch sight of one individual who it seems they have not yet identified. So they're just basically waiting to see if once they get the IP addresses, they can actually identify the individuals. So that's pretty much the update.
Thank you, Tanya. Terry?
Yes, Tanya, could we get a copy? Could you please submit a copy of that police report that you submitted?
I did. I already sent it to the whole board. The day I submitted it, I sent it to the whole board.
Did you? I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
Yes.
I'll do a search. Thank you. And did the police department respond in writing about having identified somebody and contacting Zoom?
They have not corresponded with me at all. I had to reach out to them, and I can tell you that today I spoke with a detective who gave me all of this information. They have not communicated with me in writing, no.
What was that detective's name?
His name is Jack Gasol.
Jack Gasol, Gasol?
I think it's spelled Jakasal.
Oh, that's his last name. I thought it was two names. Jack Gasol. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Tanya. Is there anything else? Hearing none, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
So moved.
There's a
Second.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ivy. Thank you, Dr. Reynolds. Thank you, Amy. Thank you,
Happy
everybody.
holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. And
Happy
please be safe with the
holidays.
snow.
Enjoy your family, your time. Stay safe and stay healthy, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.